Do you like games? I like games. Do you like games too? I like games too. I like games too.
Hey, I'm Peter Franson from christiangeekcentral.com and Spirit Blade Productions, here to give you my thoughts on E3 2016. Wow, this was a really interesting year with a lot of surprising things that I enjoyed. There's so much to comment on. Microsoft and Sony, I thought both had really enjoyable press conferences, and for my tastes, just overall throughout the week, there was a lot worth keeping my eye on as we head into the next year or so. So first off, EA and what they brought. Well, we had Mass Effect Andromeda, and I'm just going to give the highlights of what interests me. Obviously, I can't cover everything. That was a bit of a bummer to have so little there. It was basically just animated concept art, you know. I mean, it's a little disappointing to not get much more than that, basically. They did say that there's going to be more freedom than we've ever given players in a BioWare game, and I find that hard to believe, because the way I view freedom, I think they've been actually a little bit more restrictive. They've created something of the illusion of freedom with their dialogue choice system in Mass Effect, but to me, it's actually very limiting, because they'll often give you just two really lousy choices instead of the one that I would want to ask, such as a clarifying question, so that I can make a more educated or thoughtful response. So I'm not really a fan of their dialogue and choice system. I would love to see the kind of choice given to players that we had in Neverwinter Nights. You know, where not only in the included campaign was there the possibility to do all kinds of things, but of course you had the ability for people to create their own content, and then, you know, that there's no more choice than what can be offered from the ability from giving tools to modders. So they're going to share more this fall, they said, so that'll be interesting. They said we've created a universe that you lose yourself in. That's very kind of market type speak, so I don't know if that means it's an open world or what. I don't know. So I'm not excited. I'm done with BioWare and their dialogue choice system. I'm just kind of over it, but I am curious, and I do want to give this one a chance. That's why I mention it. Then we have Fe, F-E or Fee, or there was a little bit of change in how they pronounced it during EA's press conference. It's described as a personal narrative about our relationship with nature, a celebration of our longing to be one with the world around us, a story that reminds us that everything in this world is connected. Every animal, even the plants, they all have their own unique song. By learning the songs of the forest, you can connect to the forest to understand it, to be a part of it. The silent ones corrupt the forest, spreading their silence. Interesting, a lot of kind of pop spiritual language or even Buddhist-inspired language, this vibe of, seeking oneness with nature, which is contrasted with Scripture, the Bible, which reveals that we are actually the intended caretakers and rulers of nature. So it doesn't look like it's my kind of game, but just thematically it has my attention, so I'll be interested to see more of that. Moving on to Bethesda, we had Prey, which really caught my attention. This is kind of a reboot or a reimagining of the game world originally featured in Prey on the Xbox 360. I don't know if it came to other consoles as well, but this is just an entirely reimagining. They've said, throw away what you know about previous Prey games or game and just embrace what we're going to give you here, hopefully. It looks like a sci-fi horror type story shooter, certainly inspired by BioShock and all the games that have, been inspired by BioShock. So that alone, it has my attention to have this kind of like BioShock influences, but I do want a ton more information. But they have said it's not going to be a Dead Space type of horror survival game, even though in the trailer they've released, there's certainly some alien horror elements, and they have said that you are the prey in this game, being hunted by an alien of some kind. And that alien looks like a weird inky black shape-shifting creepy awesomeness, and looks like there's something involving stabbing something in your eye and reliving the same day over and over. I mean, it looks really trippy and cool in all the right ways for my tastes. Then we had the Fallout 4 DLC stuff announced, the contraptions, the Vault Tech, the Nuka-Cola, and there are reportedly story reasons for building a vault and messing with dwellers, so that interests me. I want a reason to mess with all that kind of village building system or whatever it is, not village settlement. And then there's more story quests that are going to come with Nuka Land. So I'll give it a try. But for me, Fallout 4 kind of wore out its welcome much earlier than I expected for my enjoyment as far as I'm concerned. Then there was Skyrim Special Edition, which I knew about in advance, but it was just awesome to see that footage revealed, to see the upgrade in the graphics. It just looks beautiful, and it's going to have mods, which is awesome. Hopefully, mods on the PS4 at the time of launch. That would really be great. I also would like to know if there's going to be better load times. That's a huge factor in whether or not I will go back to Skyrim, if whether or not they've improved the load times. So I think on this one, I'm going to wait for reviews, despite the fact that I am very excited to think about the potential of it. Dishonored 2, they pushed that a lot. That looks cool. I'm not a fan of stealth-only games, so if that changes and they make, combat when I feel like it, an option, I'd prefer to have that option when I become impatient with stealth mechanics. It's an awesome, awesome world, though. I enjoyed looking at that world and the concepts in that world so much that it makes me want to give Dishonored 1 another chance, even though I know the puzzles will probably frustrate me. All right, moving on to Microsoft. I really like their Play Anywhere thing, where they have cross-buy and cross-save between Windows 10 and Xbox One. I think that's a really cool feature, and certainly blows the whole cross-save, cross-buy feature between PlayStation 4 and PlayStation Vita out of the frickin' water. I mean, that's a great feature. Then they featured the Trial of the Titan boss battle for Final Fantasy 15. Huge spectacle and scale in this boss fight. It looks really cool, but the player seemed to be getting hit a lot more than he was hitting the enemy. I found out later on that there was a technical problem that had something to do with the build of the game. I don't know, but that's why we see him getting whacked around a lot and not being very effective in that battle. Anyway, I wanted to see more flashy special attacks, but in taking in some video footage elsewhere, I got my fix of that. I'm like, okay, so visually, I think this Final Fantasy is going to be where I want it to be, but I still don't have a great sense of how strategic it's going to be. Now, there was on the Square Enix YouTube channel, and if you go there, they have like 8-hour, 7-hour, 6-hour videos that 2 out of 3 of them only will play 4 hours of that chunk. This, for some reason, the live stream didn't transfer over all the way. I don't know what's going on there. Hopefully they'll fix it. But I did catch them showcasing a wait mode where players have the option in combat to not only change the difficulty level, which I think is awesome, but also to pause combat, which causes everything to go black and white, and for the music also to kind of shut off. And then you can tactically go around while everything is frozen and choose who you're going to attack and stuff, and then it unfreezes and then it carries out your move. So in that way, it's definitely a callback to classic turn-based Final Fantasy games. The only problem I have with this, because I love this idea, especially since you can dial up the difficulty so that it becomes, tactically worthwhile to pause and think. The only thing I don't like about this is that they put everything in black and white, and then they also turn off the music when you go into that freeze mode. And I'm like, no, that takes kind of the momentum out of it, and in the classic Final Fantasy games, the music didn't shut off and things didn't go black and white. There wasn't this sense of stopping. I want to feel like I'm still in the battle, in the moment. And I think even if they didn't, retain the color, I think if they at least kept that music playing, the battle music playing, while I'm making those tactical decisions, it would keep me in the moment and keep that sense of momentum. So hopefully that's something they'll consider making an option to turn on and off. There's still just so much I don't know about this game. I played the Final Fantasy 15 demo they released a month or so back, whenever that was, and it was a whole lot of hitting circles, so I'm hoping that a more tactical version of this with the difficulty cranked up will scratch the itch that I'm really wanting to have scratched when I think of a Final Fantasy game. All right, Xbox also announced these clubs, groups, and arenas on Xbox Live, basically just reminding us that they lead the charge when it comes to helping people, gamers, connect with other gamers and play together online with the people and they want to play with, whether those are people they know already or people they're getting to know through the user interface that Xbox provides. I think they do a fantastic job with that. I am strictly a hermit solo gamer, so it doesn't really have relevance to me, but I did tip my hat. I was like, that is cool. Then they showcased also in their sizzle reel of independent games, We Happy Few, which I chased down some more information about. It's coming this summer to Windows 10 and Xbox One. Clearly has some Bioshock inspirations. It takes place in a world where there's some horrible past that everyone in this society is wanting to forget, and so they take this drug called joy that basically gives them rose-colored lenses and actually alters what they see. So any dark realities that they're dealing with look different. They have hallucinations that change those things into something brighter and happier and stuff like that. And anyone that goes off of their joy, their regimen of these joy pills is called a downer, and they are hunted down and maybe even killed. At the very least, they're hunted down by police, maybe beaten severely or something. But it looks like, I don't know what the gameplay is going to be like, if that's going to be my cup of tea, but just it looks like it takes a lot of inspiration, like I said, from Bioshock and being a first-person story type of action game, and that really interests me. Then they also talked about Project Scorpio, which is the new 1.5 version of their current console. They use this tagline of Beyond Generations a lot to describe the future of Xbox, which hinted to me, I think, at the idea that we're getting away from console generations and we're going to see this much more frequent iterating on consoles. Hopefully they won't just keep releasing new consoles all the time. Hopefully the Scorpio will be something that has ports or something so that it can be upgraded at the very least, instead of requiring us to every year and a half or 2 years or 3 years buy an entirely new console. It's interesting. Let's see, what else they said? Oh yeah, they said every single thing we've done for Xbox One will continue to work. We add to the capabilities of the Xbox One and the Xbox One family without forcing gamers to abandon the games and community that they love so much. They also said these two systems are part of the same family, meaning the Xbox One and the Scorpio. The games will work on both. The accessories will work on both. The most powerful console ever, they called this. They said it will lead the console industry into true 4K gaming and high fidelity VR. You know what? I'm totally cool with that if that is their aim. They said that of these three Xbox, meaning the new Slim, the original Xbox One, and then the Scorpio, will all be compatible. That sounds great, as long as, they don't settle for having like a crappy stuttery version of the Xbox One version of a game come out, and the Scorpio is really where it's at. They said all Xbox One games and accessories will play on all three. No one gets left behind, and they were met with cheers and applause, and I thought that was great. In a later interview, an Xbox rep clarified that players without 4K TVs will not benefit from having Scorpio. I thought that was really interesting. The implication being that if you have a 1080 or 720 TV display, there will be no difference in your game experience. And for me, this is great news, because I don't want to kind of feel that temptation, that itch to constantly be upgrading every 3 or 4 years. At the end of the day, that's our choice, and that's my problem if I have that temptation, But all things being equal, I'd rather not be tempted. So that is much more convenient for me and my personal character weaknesses. I want the same thing from Sony's half-measure console, and that makes this truly a specialty kind of boutique item that's really for just the hardcore people that are investing in new technologies as quickly as possible, buying 4K displays and stuff like that. Then they've got this kind of boutique item that they can get, and awesome for them. But for the rest of us, even if you plug in a Scorpio on our 1080 display, you're not going to see a difference, and I think that's just great. I think that's great. I think there'll be a lot less division, and I think there's a lot less potential for people to get upset, with the release of the Scorpio. I think it makes Scorpio nothing but a good thing if that's the only difference is it, you're only going to notice it on a 4K display. I did watch the PC gaming show. Tyranny jumped out at me. That's from the makers of Obsidian. It uses the same Obsidian, the makers of Pillars of Eternity. I'm still waiting for a console version of Pillars of Eternity. I'm about halfway through playing it on PC and just discovered that I don't want to play with a mouse and keyboard. So I would I'll watch Tyranny. I'll keep my eye on it if I hear news that it's going to consoles. And then there was the Turing test, which I think is associated with Square Enix somehow. It's really only the title that interests me, along with Detroit Become Human and Near Automata. There seems to be a growing number of games and movies and all this kind of stuff that are dealing with this idea of artificial intelligence. I'm going to come back to that thought in a little bit. You see, Ubisoft, Watch Dogs 2. I'm interested. I saw only mediocre reviews for the first one, and I really hate the Ubisoft timed / escort / stealth insta-fail missions, that are very confined and restrictive. I get used to playing a game like Far Cry 3 or 4 a certain way when I'm doing the open world missions, taking my time and developing my own playstyle, and then all of a sudden to advance the story, I have to totally abandon that. I have to do things in a very restricted way, and I usually end up dying and failing and having to repeat stuff over and over again, which is the thing I absolutely hate most about games, is dying and repeating the same material again and again and again. My fault because I suck, but it is no less frustrating for recognizing that. Anyway, aside from that, the potential of Watch Dogs 2, it looks great. So I'm going to wait for reviews. It was interesting to note that they're working on not forcing players to play a certain way, and I think that's great. But the same kind of marketing language was used for Far Cry 4, and I found some of those missions to be very restrictive. The play also assumes that you are online even in a single-player game, and that while walking around you will see other players that you do not have to interact with, but they are nonetheless there. So if online connection is required to play this game, I'm out. That's an instant rejection for my tastes. Anyway, that's coming out November 15th. What else? Okay, moving on to Sony PlayStation. God of War really got my attention. They opened up with a bang, had that whole live orchestra and stuff. Bear McCreary is the one that's doing the music for this game. I really might miss Tyler Bates. He's become one of my favorite composers to listen to in both film and video games, even though you could argue that he composes a lot of the same kind of stuff. I like that kind of stuff. And it was a nice fit for what they were going for in the previous God of War games, but clearly they're going for something very different. The story looks much more character-driven in a grounded, more relatable kind of way, and I love the potential of that. The combat is closer, zoomed-in, third-person. It struck me as less flashy, certainly no longer 300 inspired. I'm concerned it's going to lose the sense of scale and spectacle of the previous games, but in an interview, one of the devs said, we purposely chose, this footage to show at the Sony conference to show that we can do these quieter, more grounded type of story moments, trusting that people will remember that, yeah, we can do the big spectacle set pieces and stuff. So I also hope it will have an easy difficulty that I can take advantage of. I don't want another Dark Souls clone. I really hope it's not taking inspiration in terms of difficulty from Dark Souls. If it does, that's on the higher difficulties, that's fine. Just give me my easy difficulties so that I can feel cool and, bash up the bad guys. I'm very curious to see more. Meantime, I'm just kind of feeling inspired to push through a wall in my God of War playthrough of my playthrough of the God of War series. I've gone back and I'm playing through those games again, and I'm in the first one. There's lots of lame traps near the end, and I felt inspired to kind of push through. So I think I'm almost done with those traps because of what this new rebooted God of War kind of made me feel. So let's see, what did I say? I'm looking at my notes here. Oh yeah, a dev also revealed in an interview that the father-son story and mechanics will continue through the game. This wasn't just a unique scene, and the son is going to be not a hindrance to babysit, but an asset. That was really good news to me. I hate protection quests. I'm not sure how I feel about the new mechanics, but I am a sucker for a father-son story. So I also noticed on reflection that there were no topless women, which would be a nice change for the God of War series. Maybe given that there's a young son in tow, the devs felt like, boy, it would be kind of weird if this guy walking around with his young son and there's some topless, Medusa monster or whatever. Maybe they felt that was kind of incongruous or something. So either way, I'm hoping that is the case. The devs also confirmed that, like I said, there's going to be big action and set pieces and stuff like that. So, all right, Horizon Zero Dawn. They're finally showing the open world RPG systems, component collecting and crafting, skills and inventory menus, maps and quest markers. There was a dialogue wheel that, okay, that's fine. I can deal with that. It's not Mass Effect-y yet, so please no. The action to me is a little intimidating. There's lots of like planting traps and dodging and thinking and moving really fast. Things do slow down a little bit when you open up the weapon wheel, but I'm still like, oh crap, some slow-mo assisted aiming would be really great. Well, actually, I did see some of that, so hopefully you can use that in an unlimited capacity. There's some goddess references in terms of just the theology of this kind of tribal people, and those references come from a fearful, arguably superstitious character, and the main character doesn't believe in demons and cares about lives, presumably human lives. So combined with this kind of living machines concept, I get an atheistic humanist vibe as the foundational philosophy of this game, but we'll see. All right, speaking of humanistic and atheistic philosophies, Detroit Become Human. It's another one of these AI type stories. One of the characters sees an AI come in to help and says, "An android, why didn't you send a real person?" And then one android complains that he was designed to be the slave/toy of humans, and the response from another android was, "You're a machine, you have to obey." So they're definitely kind of playing with this kind of android rights/human rights, kind of thing. I'm just wondering, why in the world is negotiation a tactic with an AI? At what point did we start caring about what our cell phones feel? I'm just like, turn it off wirelessly. Why are you sending in an android? Why are you doing any of this? Turn it off. There's got to be a wireless turn-off switch. Why in the world is this happening? It seems like a ridiculous situation, but and its very premise and the title of the game, which is Detroit Become Human, seems to give away the atheistic/naturalistic view of the writer that really humans are nothing more than just kind of wet, gooey machines, and that if it evolves enough or changes enough or adapts and becomes more and more intelligent enough, that a machine, our cell phone, could ultimately, become just as much a human as we are. I would prefer a bolder choice where it comes to AI characters, maybe where an AI character gains the sympathy of the player over the course of the game, only to reveal that they truly are only a cold, deceptively programmed simulation of a human personality, or at least complex enough writing would be nice to allow for allow for either a naturalistic, or a theistic worldview, instead of being forced to accept this worldview in order to suspend disbelief and enter into the story. In a GameSpot interview, the creator, David Cage, said that a premise of the game was to take the opposite view of those AI stories where the machines are the bad guys and the humans are the heroes who must stop them, which, in my mind, those are far from the majority. I think, Terminator, certainly, and we've had, a couple others, but more and more, this is not a very revolutionary way to treat AI. More and more, AIs are the poor heroes, the poor downtrodden that are just as human as we are, and we need to have compassion for them and give them human rights and stuff like that. In other words, in Detroit Become Human, the premise is that humans are the bad guys and the machines are in the right, Cage says. So from the get-go, this is a story that assumes machines have moral judgment and that they have rights that are being violated. Cage says, "We want the player to be the co-writer and create a narrative space where the player can tell his own story through his own decisions and choices." I'm guessing they're probably not going to let my view of human nature affect the game world as a co-writer, but we'll see. So anyway, yeah, that's 2 games in a row with atheistic/naturalistic leanings. I'm wondering if pop spirituality is giving ground to atheism in popular entertainment. I'll try to put a plug in this, or not a plug, but a link in this video. I'm plugging it right now for some of my thoughts on AI, which I've expressed in another video in more depth. As for gameplay, I've never played a pure story/choose-your-own-adventure video game like Detroit Become Human seems to be. I do like the sci-fi look of the world, and so I might give it a try. We'll see. All right, so then my general just kind of thoughts about the course of the week and what I saw, what kind of videos I checked out and games that I noticed and that jumped out to me. First off, Bloodstained Ritual of the Night. This was part of the sizzle reel for the Xbox One, and it's going to be coming in 2017. It's the successor to Castlevania Symphony of the Night and all of the kind of clones of that game that came after on the Nintendo handhelds, which I'm slowly catching up on. I'm more than halfway through catching up through those games. I really enjoyed Symphony of the Night and all those clones that followed it. I just thought it's just my kind of like side-scrolling action RPG with a kind of a Metroid type of map where you're finding items that give you access to other parts of the map that you weren't able to access before, and but with RPG elements. So if you suck like me at action games, you can kind of walk back and forth if you really need to and just grind for a bit, build up your levels, and then go take on that tricky boss that was handing your butt to you a second ago. So anyway, seems to be a successor to Castlevania Symphony of the Night. It's the same creator, and it's a successor in nearly every way that I can tell, except for name and character. I mean, like, down to menus and the types of upgrades and the types of skills and attributes and stuff. It looks totally like it's my cup of tea. It's coming to Xbox, PS4, PS Vita with cross-save, and they're also saying they're going to make it compatible with the PlayStation TV, which I think is awesome, and PC. Again, that's 2017. That's coming. Bloodstained Ritual of the Night. One game that I was a little blip on my radar that really has a lot more of my attention now is Nier Automata. This is coming out on PS4 in early 2017. It's a Japanese action RPG with flashy, fast-paced combat and a serious tone, which is my kind of JRPG. It's got large open areas, not necessarily open world as far as I could tell, just large open areas, which give room for these kind of large-scale battles as well. I love the visual design. It's kind of like, it's definitely stylized because, you know, in the way that many Japanese games and visual fiction types are, but it was also very kind of dark and serious in tone. I also like the sound design. It's basically about androids fighting a bunch of other robots on this planet that humanity has abandoned, and all the robotic sounds, the clanking metal and the servos and stuff that I heard in the gameplay demos. Really cool stuff. The creature design looks weird and menacing. Automata refers to the main characters who are androids. So that's interesting to me because the protagonists and the antagonists are all machines in this world. So and it's a Japanese RPG, which many of those almost always have some kind of philosophizing going on. So I'm wondering if we're going to have another take on AI. I would guess that because the protagonists are machines, you know, at the very least we are expected to have sympathetic feelings for them and value them in the same way that we value humans. So, but either way, I'm really looking forward to this game. Looks like it could be just my cup of tea. We did get a Sword Coast Legends PS4 coming soon trailer. Hopefully they're just waiting for E3 to kind of settle down. I would love a release this coming Tuesday. Come on, guys, come on. But that's all we got for that. Deus Ex Mankind Divided. I'm interested in the potential to play this as an RPG shooter. I enjoyed a few hours of Human Revolution, but didn't feel like stealthing and the stealth gameplay going through the whole thing, and the shooting was too hard for me. I also had trouble with the hacking game sometimes. I could probably figure it out. I just kind of lost patience because of the other game elements I didn't like. So if those things are changed and, you know, only stealthing when I feel like it is, and I can shoot my way through the rest of the time, if that's an option, then I can imagine really loving this game. It releases August 23rd, so coming up very soon. Agents of Mayhem is coming in 2017. This is from the creators of the Saints Row games, which I really enjoyed Saints Row 3 and 4, 3 especially, and wanted to see more from this studio, and this is it. It's a more tactical action combat oriented compared to Saints Row. There are 12 agents to choose from, and you control 3 at a time and switch between them on the fly. There are varied power and ability sets that each agent has that are good for different situations, which is one of the reasons you would switch between them, and they're AI controlled the rest of the time. It's an open world city game where there are activities and main missions like you would expect. To me, it just sounds awesome. I like the visual design. I'm hoping for this to be just kind of a squad-based action RPG type of game. Very much looking forward to seeing more about Agents of Mayhem. Dragon Quest Builders is coming this October 11th. It has RPG elements, significant ones, but it's a sandbox builder at core. You gain hit points, like your hit point total, your maximum hit point total grows by completing quests. The rest of the upgrading is based on equipment made from crafting, so you don't gain experience by killing monsters. The story takes place after Dragon Quest 1 and assumes that when you have that choice at the end of the game to go along with the Dragon Lord and be his buddy instead of fighting him, it assumes that yes, you chose to go along with him and be his buddy. So the world has fallen, and I guess for some reason you've changed your mind and you want to kind of rebuild it. So the gameplay is based on restoring your town, guided by the needs of the villagers. So they'll kind of give you, boy, it would be great to have this, da da da, and then you go do that, and that's your measure of success, is completing those requests. You fight monsters and you mine / collect natural materials that all serve as crafting components for everything that you build in the game. And you're building not just villages but also equipment, and you're taking that equipment out with you, and sometimes you're using that equipment during combat in very necessary tactical ways, sometimes even crafting things on the fly in the middle of a fight so that you can pull out this big cannon or this big kind of like a blocking wall of some kind to block off the attack of a giant monster that's shooting things at you. Your village has a total point value that rises and falls as you build or deconstruct portions of it. Enough points and your village then levels up. The effect of leveling a village was unclear to me, but it seems attached to advancing the story. There's also a hunger gauge that slowly depletes, so you also need to make and eat food. So just maybe a minor light kind of survival element, I suppose. Like I said, the boss battles involve giant enemies attacking your village and destroying it. So like a boss fight isn't just about protecting yourself, it's about keeping all the work you've done intact. The villagers are all warped out before the battle starts, and so let's see here. The devs doing the demo got themselves killed twice during a boss battle. Once while performing a maneuver they set up to kill. Actually, it was just a regular enemy that time, and it either backfired or was purposefully ineffective to be funny. I'm not sure. I don't. It just kind of left me wondering if I'm going to have frustrating experiences like that when I play it. There might have been something lost in translation or just in the sense of humor that they had. I don't know. You can bring villagers along with you to explore and fight, and they are AI controlled. Music is remade versions of classic Dragon Quest tracks for the overworld and for battle, etc. Very nostalgic, a great use of the Dragon Quest license for my tastes. It's probably not near as deep as Minecraft, but it looks so much better and uses a license that I enjoy. There's no word on a creative mode, where you don't have to fear combat or enemies or whatever, but screenshots of Japanese user creations looked like there was plenty of room to create elaborate, crazy creations. All right, Final Fantasy XII. We're getting close to the end here. Final Fantasy XII is being re-released in HD in 2017. It's going to feature re-recorded music. The game's going to be rebalanced, apparently made easier. That concerns me just a little bit because although I experienced maybe some spikes of difficulty here and there, I didn't find the game to be overall difficult. So hopefully they won't make it too easy. They'll just kind of fix maybe some of those spikes. Load times are also drastically reduced, and there's also a high-speed mode that allows you to traverse the kind of the somewhat open world. I wouldn't call it a truly open world, but it's these large open areas that you go from one to the other. So they got a high-speed mode that allow you to traverse those more quickly. There's no mention of reverse camera control. Like when you control the camera with the right stick, it's a weird. It's different from the way I like all my other cameras controlled in all other games, which allow me to change the setting if I don't like it. It's defaulted to the one that like most games don't default to. It's like this weird, I can't even describe it. There's a name for it, but it's probably inverted or not inverted, but I don't know which one's which. So I really hope they give me the option because that really took some adjusting when I played through Final Fantasy XII the last 2 times. But I really enjoyed that game. I will gladly play it a third. The upgraded graphics alone look fantastic, almost like this is a game created newly for the PS4. World of Final Fantasy is coming out October 25th and is described as a heartfelt love letter to the series. It includes cute, quote unquote. Those are they describe it as cute. I don't know if I describe it that way. Cute versions of classic Final Fantasy heroes, monsters, and places. It starts in Final Fantasy I's opening city, Cornelia. It's got the active time battle system that many of the classic Final Fantasy games had, and a key battle concept is stacking, in which characters stack on top of each other to improve attacks during combat. It looks really silly. And it means basically I'm only going to play this game with my boys. That and the voice acting is just, weird. And if you have a tolerance or even a love for silly Japanese anime, I think that this game is the tone and the feel is going to be right up your alley. That's totally not my thing. But this is one of those experiences that I would categorize as a halfway point between the stuff I enjoy and the stuff my boys are capable of enjoying. I think aesthetically my boys would just enjoy the thing from top to bottom. The only thing I'm wondering about is how will they do with the RPG systems? I've got an 8-year-old and a 5-year-old, but this one I would not buy this one to play by myself, but I would consider buying it and then like carving out 30 minutes or 60 minutes, in the day as we all kind of wind down for the evening to sit down on the couch with my boys and play this game. I think it's a really nice potential halfway point that I can have there. So it definitely has my attention for that. And then lastly, I Am Setsuna. This one releases really soon on July 19th on both Steam and PlayStation Network. It's a reportedly somber game with a story that's told through text primarily, without facial animations or voice acting, which I think is wonderful because I think that's when a lot of the Japanese RPG games became difficult for me to stomach, because they just started feeling a lot more like silly anime once you started bringing in voice actors, and once the character animation could be complex enough to be realistic, and yet they still kept it as this overly done bombastic anime type style of physical performances of characters. So for some reason it worked better for me to see a little 16-bit character, jumping up and down and blinking, and it's like, okay, I get it, they're happy. I accepted for some reason that, like, maybe because of the limitations of the graphics, that's just something they had to do to convey the emotion. They had to overdo it when it was 16-bit graphics. But once, we got to, like, PlayStation 2, I was like, guys, what is this? Settle down, so this looks like it's going to be a return to those limitations, and therefore potentially a return to the kind of JRPG whose tone and storytelling technique I will be able to enjoy. The main character's name is Setsuna, and comes from a Japanese word meaning both sorrowful and bittersweet. It has a sad piano soundtrack, which when I first heard it in trailers, I was like, I don't know, I want a full orchestra, but as I saw more of the gameplay over the course of this week, I was like, oh, dang, no, this could be really good, actually. It just has a very serious tone. It's about a village that has been sacrificing teenage girls in order to stop this giant creature or something like that from destroying them, and that's maybe sounds like a pretty common fantastical theme, but it's being treated apparently very seriously. So I'm really interested in checking this one out. It's got highly strategic combat that's inspired by Chrono Trigger, Final Fantasy IV, Final Fantasy VI, and the Mana series, as well as the Materia system from Final Fantasy VII. They said that it can be completed by anybody in 20 to 30 hours, which hopefully means that that's the kind of the minimum, and there's maybe more that could keep you in the game longer than that. Even if that's not the case, 20 to 30 hours for kind of a retro experience like this, that sounds right about on the money for me. This may just be the Japanese RPG that I've been looking for since Shadow Hearts 1, which is probably my favorite JRPG of all time. All right, so this was a great E3 for me. I had a number of my wishes granted. I received assurances that Xbox One owners do not own a console that will soon be lower priority than the new model. Xbox had a great game focus and a minimal focus on Scorpio and VR during their conference. No Man's Sky, I wanted it to either have new things revealed that would make me excited for it again, or not be mentioned at all, and it was not mentioned at all, so woohoo! PlayStation 4's conference had a really solid game focus. There was minimal PlayStation 4 Neo, actually there was no PlayStation 4 Neo, and minimal VR stuff in the conference. I got more of I Am Setsuna, which I totally wanted, and in general I just got entertainment, especially from the stage shows. I got well-crafted stage shows. My favorite things, the big highlights for me, were Skyrim Special Edition, the new God of War game, which, if for no other reason, gives me a reason to, because it shares continuity with the original God of War series, gives me a reason to kind of like, okay, power through these traps, because I played God of War 2, I know the traps aren't near as obnoxious in that game, and I've only heard great things about the games after that, so, it makes me kind of excited to power through and get caught up on all those games, which I'm sure I'll have at least probably a year before this new God of War comes out to get through all of those games. So that just gave me a reason, if not to get excited about the new game, which I still have questions about, it gave me a reason to get excited again about the series I'm playing through right now. Nier Automata, really really has my attention. Agents of Mayhem, I think I'm really going to enjoy that based on my experience with the Saints Row games. Final Fantasy 12, which I'm far more excited about than I am about Final Fantasy 15, and I Am Setsuna. That's a lot of stuff. And then there's also No Man's Sky and Cosmic Star Heroine, which are both coming out this summer. Cosmic Star Heroine doesn't have a release date, wasn't mentioned at E3, but it's $14.99. Okay, I gotta go start planning my budget.
ChristianGeekCentral.com